Look at the view! I have traveled all the way from Sweden to Montenegro to participate in the European Team Chess Championship, which is by far the biggest chess tournament that I'm gonna play in the whole year. I am here representing my country, Sweden, and we're gonna do our very best in this very difficult tournament where we're gonna be facing a lot of other very strong European countries. So the first round is starting today in just a few hours. We are facing Poland today, which is one of the most difficult countries to face, and I'm gonna go now into my room to prepare before the game starts. I'll be taking you through the whole journey. Let's go! I have now been prepping for 2 hours and the game is starting in 20 minutes. So I just got changed. I put on like the national team clothes. It says my name here, Cramling, and then it says like where we're playing. And then it also says Sweden on the back. And I am now gonna go to the playing hall to play the first round of the European Team Chess Championship. And I'm really nervous. Because we're facing a really strong team. We're facing Poland, and I'm playing against a girl who's 2300, so she's very strong. She is, on paper better than me, so I'm definitely the underdog this game, and it would be amazing if I could at least not lose. If I could either draw or win, that'd be absolutely amazing. I have the white pieces. I do have a line that I like that I'm hoping that she goes into, and we will see how it goes. Wish me luck. Guys, this is the most crazy game ever. I just got back to the room and I am so excited to show you the game. The game was insane. It was a long game and I'm not gonna lie, I was very nervous before it started because I hadn't played an over-the-board competitive chess game in many months, and I was facing a 2300 very strong woman international master. So I was super nervous before it started, but well, here's the game. I'm not gonna give any spoilers. I don't wanna say anything. But one thing I do wanna say is that I've always looked up to my opponent. We're very close in age, but she's always been like 200-300 points higher rated than me. And so I was really excited to play her today because I thought that if I draw, it's gonna be amazing. If I win, it's gonna be like insane. So I was just trying to get any result today as she's a lot stronger than what I am. So let me show you the game. I started by going 1d4, what a surprise. And then she went d5, which I was actually not really expecting. I thought she was gonna play the Benko gambit, which was what I had prepared the most, and start with knight f6. So I went c4, e6, I developed, and here I played the Queen's Gambit, declined exchange variation, which is when you take this pawn in the center. And what is the idea of that? Well, the idea is that she cannot take my c4 pawn anymore. So here I developed pinning the knight. She defended her pawn, I pushed up my pawn, and now I did a move which looks a little bit strange, but I moved up my queen one step, and this is still theory. The idea of this move is that I want to develop my knight, I want to go over here, but if I do this now, she's going to have bishop g4 and she's going to pin my knight. So by moving my queen, I am not allowing her to pin my knight, and therefore she cannot exchange her terrible bishop for my knight. And this bishop is really bad in these positions because all of these pawns are in light squares. So this this bishop is kind of clumsy and kind of feels like a pawn. Also, if you hear a fan, I am so sorry, but this room has the loudest fan I've heard in my life. And I don't know why this fan is so loud, and it's the middle of the night and I can't sleep because of this fan. So excuse me and my fan, I can't turn it off. All right, so castles. Now on bishop d3, threatening to capture the pawn on h7, because if she takes back, well then the queen is hanging. So h6, I went back with the bishop, she went rook e8, and here I had to make a decision. Do I go knight over here or do I go knight f3? Now the reason I was thinking about maybe not going knight f3 was because I was scared of her threatening my knight, and I didn't really know where my knight was going to go. But I ended up going here anyways, and the idea was that if she goes bishop here, well then I'll just let her take it. That was my thought, because I didn't want to spend time moving this knight anymore. So she went bishop e6, and now I had a once in a game opportunity. I could either castle, which, you know, is what a normal human being would do. Looks very logical. Or I can do a very fun move, which is to bring up my knight to the center of the board. And this is the only time I can do it, because if I wait one move, she's going to be able to get her knight out. So this is a very important moment to do it in. And so I did it now. So I went up with my knight, and she went c5. And here I started feeling a little bit nervous, because I realized that I had not seen this move. I thought this move was really not a move that came up to my mind, and that kind of scared me because it should be a move that I think about. So I was kind of feeling like I wasn't playing so well, and I was scared that in tougher positions I wouldn't really know what to do. So she went c5, and the idea is that she wants to exchange this pawn for this one, and after the exchange she wants me to have an isolated pawn. And this pawn was going to become pretty weak, so I started realizing that I could get in trouble very soon. So I castled here, completely ignoring her threats. Takes and takes, and knight c6. Now she got her knight, and here I actually thought for 10 minutes. And that makes no sense at all, because right now she's threatening both this pawn, and she's threatening to take my knight twice. And so here, the only move that I have really is to take. There's nothing more that I can do to make sure that I don't lose any material. And if I go back with my knight or something, well, then she might have knight b4, which is not a move that I want her to do. So I captured, but the reason I thought for so long was because I was seeing crazy things over here. I thought that there was a risk that she might take here. And then after king takes, that she'd go knight g4 check, king g3, and that she'd have things such as queen d6 check. And if knight e5, I thought she might have g5, and I just thought my king was so unsafe, and I got really scared, and I was calculating all these insanity things. But yeah, after I took on c6, she literally took 5 seconds and she captured back, and I was like, I've spent so much time on this move. Here, I realized that if I do something random like rook c1, she's threatening to take on h2. She's threatening to take this pawn. And after I take back, she can bring up her knight. And then if my king goes up, she does have g5 and my bishop is pinned. So, it's trapped. So I went bishop g3. The idea being, one, that I'm stopping the threat of bishop takes h2. But two, I realized that this bishop is very strong. And if I am able to trade my bishop for hers, then this c5 square is going to become very good for me, very good for my knight. So I realized that I might be able to put a lot of pressure on this pawn by controlling the square in front of it, so that one, it can never get exchanged, but two, so that, you know, I can just really apply a lot of pressure. So she moved up her rook, and I continued with my plan, and now she went rook b4. And in this position, I did the move that I think I am the most proud of the whole game. I'm really excited about the fact that I did this move, especially because it's the top engine move here. So the move that I did, and you can take a second to try to figure it out yourself, was, well, let me tell you the thought process. So the thought process, oh, I'm kidding. It was just a prank. It was the next move. Okay, so I went first rook d1, defending this pawn, because after rook b4, she's threatening my pawn. And so I defended it by going rook d1. The idea is that now if she takes it, I have this check, and I'm winning the rook. So it's a discovery check. So that is the idea of going rook d1. And I was actually thinking here for a long time if I should bring this rook or if I should bring the other rook. And I was thinking about the Swedish grandmaster that once said that he spent 1 week in a correspondence chess game thinking about what rook to bring to d1. And then after thinking about it for 5 minutes, I realized that I'm probably going crazy, so I should probably just pick a rook, and I picked up the f rook because I wanted to be able to retreat with my bishop. So that's the explanation for that. But now, after trades, king h8, she went there so there would be no discovery checks. Now I did the move that I am the most proud of in the whole game. Now you can take a moment to think about it. If I baited you before, I am so sorry, but this was the move. The thought process that went was that right now, this pawn is hanging. So at first, I thought that I'd just simply retreat. I'd go something like bishop f1. But then during the game, I realized that this was going to be very uncomfortable after knight e4. Knight is very well placed here. My bishop cannot take this knight anymore. And after I go b3 to defend my knight so that my queen can move around, the queen can come up to f6, and this pawn is going to become very weak. It's hanging. If I defend it, she's going to go rook b8. She's going to be threatening to take my knight, and my position is just very passive. She gets a lot of activity very quickly. So I did not like that. So I realized that I wanted my bishop to stay on d3 so that I'd be able to eliminate her knight if it went up. And so I realized that maybe I should do something else. Maybe I should sacrifice the pawn but try to get something back. And so I went b3. And I'm very proud of this move because it's the best move in the position and because it's not so clear, I think. And so here I was 100% sure that she was going to take, and that is that if she takes, well, then I'm going to bring up my queen. I'm threatening her rook. Only move the rook has is to go to g4. This is the only move the rook can go to not be lost. And then I was going to take on a7. And my idea was that her pieces were all very weirdly placed. The rook, the knight, the bishop, they're all very weirdly placed. But not only that, this pawn over here, this a2 pawn, might become a warrior. It might become a winner later on in the game. And in endgames, I would probably be slightly better because I have this past protected pawn. So I was trying to think about this a little bit long term. And I thought that this, even though it seemed relatively equal, would give me some chances. So after b3, she spent 20 minutes. She had not seen this move. And that made me obviously very happy because I had 20 minutes less than her. And then after 20 minutes of thinking, she went queen d6. Well, actually 30 minutes. Wow. She spent 30 minutes on this move. 30 minutes. So after 30 minutes of thinking, she went queen d6. And I was really surprised when she did this move because, well, it didn't feel like the most critical move. So I went queen c3, now defending my pawn. She attacked my rook. I moved it, and I wanted to put some pressure on this rook as the king is a little bit unsafe. I thought she might go something like knight e4, and then I thought that I had this pretty move, queen c5. The idea being that if she takes my queen, there's a checkmate. And I thought that was kind of exciting. But after rook e1, when I offered a trade of rooks, she just defended. She went back with the rook b8, defending. And now, well, I just thought that I had to kind of come up with a plan soon, but I felt like my bishop, my rook, my knight, I felt like they were all pretty, my queen, my bishop, and my rook were all pretty well placed. So I decided to move up my knight to the most active square. One good rule in chess is that if you don't know what to do, just activate your pieces and put them in better squares. She went g6, and now it was time for me to find a plan. And I'm very happy because I did the best plan here. I realized that my position was perfect. I didn't have to move anything. I loved it. It was my time to make her kind of come up with moves because I have a lot of time and she doesn't really have a lot of places to go to. So I went queen a5, looking at the a7 pawn, threatening it. She went rook a8, defending it. And now I traded rooks because if she takes back with the rook, then I take her pawn. So she went knight takes e8, and I went rook e1, activating my rook. King g7, and once again, it was time for me to come up with a plan. How do I improve my position? I am slightly better, but how do I improve it? Well, my bishop over here is not doing much anymore. If I could place a bishop over here, I'd threaten the rook and win this pawn. So I went bishop a6. She moved the knight, I threatened the rook, and now she placed the rook on a very active square. And here she was pretty low in time. She had a minute 20. So the rook went behind the pawn, and now what she wanted to do was simply she wanted to start pushing. She wanted to go with the h pawn, h5, h4. She wanted to go up with that pawn. And I was starting to look at all the other games of the tournament. I started looking to the left, to the right, because, I was trying to see how my team was doing. This is, at the end of the day, a team tournament. It doesn't matter if winning is great, but, what matters is what the team does. So I started getting really excited about the other games, and I kind of forgot about my own. So I spent a lot of time thinking here for no reason, and I ended up doing a bad move. I ended up taking on a7, and after she went knight b5, I realized that I was in some trouble because my queen was going to get very badly placed. She's threatening my queen, she's threatening my pawn, and, well, I went queen a4 to defend everything, but now after she went queen f6, I realized that now my pawn is starting to get very weak. And so my time started ticking here, and here I made a mistake. I went f3. Now f3 is not a terrible mistake, apart from the fact that it makes this pawn weak forever. But the reason it's an inaccuracy in this position is because she can actually capture this f3 pawn and sacrifice the bishop. But let me tell you something, that is an extremely difficult thing to do with 45 seconds left. The idea is that my pawns are weak, but this is not really clear at all. So she did the very human move, bishop f5. And here I decided to simply defend my pawns. I placed my rook in the center, but then she started pushing the h-pawn. And I realized that, man, that h-pawn is going to become trouble. So I got really scared here, and I started feeling like I was losing grip of the position. So in queen b4, trying to get my queen into the dark squares and get them a little bit more active, and she kept pushing h4. My king was so weak, and the rook and the queen, if they came up to the h file, I knew that a battery would be happening and that my king would be in a lot of trouble. So here, I made a blunder. But it's a blunder that I feel like I'm happy that I made because I don't know what I would have done otherwise here. I went g4. And the only reason this is a blunder is because she can actually take on g4. She can once again sacrifice that bishop. My bishop is doing nothing over here, so it doesn't matter that she's a piece down. The idea is that after this, she can go h3, and now my king is going to be completely unsafe. And when I went g4, I was praying in my head that she would not take here, because I saw this idea of taking and going h3, and I didn't know what to do. So I was just hoping, I was just thinking, please just go bishop c8, and, do not take here, because I was really stressed as I only had a minute left on the clock, and she only had 38 seconds, so she didn't really have time to calculate. So she went back to c8, and now I was very happy because I realized that I was much better after the trades, and I pushed away her knight, and now she had to go knight c7. This was the move that she had to do. But here, with a minute left on the clock, she made a blunder. She went knight d6. And I immediately saw that after knight d6, I have this move threatening the queen and also threatening to take the knight. And so I thought that I'm just winning a piece here. I thought that she had to go queen f4, and then I was going to take the knight, and then she was going to take here. But I thought I was just completely winning. But she played this move, c5. And here, I am immediately winning on the spot if I just capture on c5, as I'm threatening the knight and I'm threatening the queen. But instead, I decided to complicate things for myself. And I don't know why I didn't take here. I don't know if it was because I was so low on time, but this is a very obvious move to do. I don't know if I somehow missed that my rook was hanging. I think I got scared that she'd have something like queen d8 threatening my knight. And then after takes and takes, I thought I wasn't winning a knight anymore. But after this and queen f4, I mean, this is just a completely winning position. I am 2 pawns up, but the king is just so unsafe. So after c5, I did a blunder. I went queen b6. And now this is not clear at all. But for human, it's very difficult to play. So she went queen f4. My king is very unsafe. This is the best thing she can do. I captured the knight because I did this to win a piece. And now she did the best move, which is to take here with the pawn. And the queen and the rook are both pointing at my king right now. It's terrifying. So here I had 50 seconds left. I didn't know what to do. I was kind of panicking because every move that I saw was losing. But I'm really happy that I found this move, queen b4. And in this position, there's only 2 moves that draw for her. The eval says that it's equal. One of them is this insane move, king h7, which is just the most unhuman move in the world to do. And the second one is to go h3, which I feel like makes more sense because it kind of opens up all the pawns in front of the king. But I think that king h7 is such an insane move to do. I don't think any human would go king h7. I mean, let me know in the comments down below if you would go king h7 here, if you've made it this far, but you would be a chess genius if you did that. Like, that's an insane move to do. I barely understand the idea behind it. But she did the move that I think is the most logical for any human being to do, and that is that she went rook c1 check. And this is the move that I thought she was going to do. So I went back with the rook, and this is the idea of going queen b4. And once again, she went for the most human move, queen e3 check. I moved the king to a square where it would still be defending the rook. And now in this position, I am completely winning because, and only because, she can in this position not move up her pawn as I have a checkmate in 2. If she was able to move up her pawn, she would probably be winning. But because I have this checkmate, she needs to deal with it. So she needs to, well, she went check and then she moved back the rook to stop it. And now I could do a lot of moves here, but I started getting a little bit scared that she'd have something with this pawn. This is right now my only weakness, that she has this extra pawn that's a little bit too far up my alley. So I need to stop that pawn. So I went rook e2. This is the only move that she can do. She went queen c3. She cannot do anything else. If she moves the queen to any other square, pretty much, this pawn is going to fall. If she moves the rook is just going to go to a really awkward square, and I'll probably be able to bring in my queen, which is my plan. So queen c3 is the only move she can do, which was the reason I went here, to force the trade of queens. And now I traded queens. It looks a little bit scary because of these pawns, but rook c2 and d4. And now the game is not over. I mean, I have a knight, but the game is not over. These pawns are scary. So I was considering going knight e5, but I realized that probably the most accurate thing to do is to go king e2. And here I thought that she was going to push the pawn, and then that she was going to try to win my knight back, but I just calculated that I'll be 2 pawns up. This after b4 should just be completely winning for me. Well, it is completely winning for me. So after d4, I went king e2, as I saw all of this, and she went rook here instead. I cannot go knight e5 because she pins my knight, obviously, so instead I went knight c5. She went king f6, trying to bring up the king, and here I thought for a while, because I was a little bit scared. I needed to find a way to place my pieces. So everything that I need to do here is that I need to capture this pawn, as this pawn is the defender of this one. If I capture this, I get this, and if I get these 2 pawns, I'm winning, as I'm a knight up. So I found this idea of going b4, so that after the king moves up, I can go knight b3 and threaten the d4 pawn. So she went rook a8, threatening my pawn, but here I just simply took. And now, after I was able to take these pawns, I went for this check, and in this position, Alicia Sliwika resigned, and I won the game. I beat a 2300 woman international master. I was shocked after the game. I was extremely happy, and I was just so ecstatic. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe that I had beaten like this really strong chess player. Dad, are you happy?
I am very happy. I am proud with you. You play very, very well this game. Fantastic, honestly.
Yay, I'm so happy.
Many, many very good moves you play. Just fantastic. Yeah.
Good night, everyone. Eat your vegetables, drink your water, play chess, and wish me luck for tomorrow's game. Bye.